Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mile High Sports Symposium. I am JT Matthews at JT Matthews01 on X, and I'm here with the Dr. Nicholas Manning at DR_N Manning on X as well. Doc, happy Wednesday again. Seems like we've been doing this for a while now. I feel like I say the same thing every time, but that's all right. It's Wednesday. That's when we meet.
I mean, it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday.
And how hangs it? How are you?
I'm good. Shout out to David. David, hope you're well. Thanks for the pop in. Hey, yeah, you know what? It's starting to warm up. Today's like the colderish day of the week. It's supposed to be back up in the 60s. Yay, Colorado again. It's definitely felt like it's been cold for a while. So I'm done with all that jazz and excited for I'm manifesting it more in my shorts like a Coloradoan would.
Yeah, same.
As long as the sun's out, legs out. My wife's birthday is tomorrow. And so
yeah,
I have there's no issue with ruining any surprise by talking about it on this podcast because she will never listen to it. So that's a fact for sure. So her last birthday before the big 4-0. So she's got one more lap around the sun before the end is near. Now you're just showing off, G. Now you're showing off.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, as you should, yes.
Yeah, that's fair.
This is the
when it's 110 with 99% humidity, then that's when I'll like chime back.
Yeah, then we'll get you back and be like,
it's dry
70
here.
And 70 and dry, and yeah, exactly. But that won't come until like June, probably May, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
We got some time, unfortunately.
But I'll be
saving
them when that happens.
That's right. You got some good birthday plans. You guys doing anything? You just kind of just another day. I mean, I guess the last one before the big 4-0. You could go one of both ways, right? You could go big and be like, "Hey, this is your last of your 30s," or you could wait till next year and be like, "All right, we're over that hill and onto the next decade."
Yeah. Nope. We're low key per the warden's orders. So
you can respect that.
Yeah, keeping it low. So that's how we're gonna roll.
Yeah, I like it. That's how I do my birthdays. It's just like, hopefully, a few of the people that I like say happy birthday, and then that's good enough for me. And we just move on with our lives. I go to work. It's a work day. No taking time off. Now you are a different kind of birthday animal. You're like a birthday.
I mean, like I feel like we give so much to everyone else. 365. At least take like your birthday. Be a little bit of I want to be a whiny bitch, I want things done the way I want to do it. It's my birthday. I'm gonna pick what's on TV.
I have no qualms with that. I just don't want to acknowledge that I'm getting older. So it's easier if no one else acknowledges it. Then I don't have to acknowledge it.
That's fair. I've already crossed the 4-0, so now it's like I'm in a phase though where now I look good for being old.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like 3 years ago, when I was still like, people were like, say you're young, but you look old for being in your 30s. And now, like, oh, you look good for being old. It also happens when you lose the hair early.
That's fair.
I look similar to when I did 10 years ago because there's no gray.
You don't got any of this, or any of this.
No, I shave it. It's weird though. Where I'll find the gray hair. I don't want to talk about that. But but yeah, so let's move on.
I was going to open it up to you because you are our resident Rockies update guy. Because I know that they're in at spring training. I know that they've played some games, and I've seen scores, but I have not really delved into what that's looked like so far. So I'm just going to open the floor to you and just let you give us a little Rocky titter.
It's one of those where it's like, I think it's okay to be like, what? Are they going to contend this year? No. That said, I like baseball. Colorado's a huge baseball state. You know what? They'll disappoint us, but it's all right for us to also like go in enjoying the sport until they fumble it, which will likely happen.
Sure.
But that said, there's some really cool things coming on. So the Rockies' first round pick, I think 2 years ago, Chase Dollander, not Zool, but I'm going to make that connection somewhere, shape, or form. I would like when he strikes, I want him to give like the blue steel.
Okay, I like that. I like that.
You know, like that'd be dope. Like on the mound, like strike him out and then just hit him with the blue steel.
Some lefty grip.
Yeah. So he's expected to make it in the rotation. They thought maybe another year, but has ace-like stuff. And so Herman Marquez coming back fully healthy. Senzatella coming back fully healthy. Cal Freeland had an up and down last year. It's kind of been over the last few years, but to be honest, it's kind of par for the course here in Colorado. But that's not a bad one. 1, 2, 3. And then if you had Dollander, who has really, really good stuff, good makeup, really excited about what he can bring. That's a nice 1 through 4 to be able to build on. Are you going to compete with $300 million payroll Dodgers? Almost 400? No. But to be honest, F them anyway. So that's pretty exciting. Zach Veen, who's been one of the Rockies' top prospects for a while, has had injuries like last couple seasons. You may or may not have seen it, folks. You see the epic bat flip from the other day where he like swings and the bat like
I didn't know that.
He had to apologize to the pitcher because it went. But it was like a 420-foot bomb. Like, yeah, man, you go ahead and do that.
You gotta apologize.
But that's another exciting prospect. I think he's 23, so it feels like he's been in the system forever because he came out as a high schooler. But he'll be pressing for some time, and then you have Ezekiel Tovar, Gold Glove caliber shortstop, who is really picking it up with the bat. You got Brenton Doyle, who essentially was 2 years ago before last season. Drew Kreisman jumped on and talked about how Brenton Doyle was essentially like the best defensive center fielder in the game the year before. He just was brutally bad until kind of the last quarter of the season with the bat. Kind of hope it picked up. He was a legitimate hitter and won a Gold Glove. And so with that being said, they also have a few catching prospects that are like Hunter Goodman was like a second round selection a couple of years ago, really good bat position versatility, or Judomo, who's been in the system for a while. It's a really, really good defensive catcher. That hasn't picked up, but to be honest, average or below average hitters hitting in Coors Field can give you, some average numbers at least. Yeah. And so there's some good positives kind of coming up with the Rockies, and they have a pitcher who you may or may not have got to see it. If you haven't yet, go click Rockies Yan. Jeffrey Yan, so it's YAN, is a throw some gas, but the best part about it is he'll let you know about it. He does a little strikeout celebration, which, to be honest with you, Rockies really haven't had many players that should be celebrating much. And so to get a guy that has some pretty electric stuff and will give you a little bit of I'll let you know about it, add some swagger to the Rockies would be super dope. So
like a jump and like a fake split. That's a lot. I don't know. Yep. Like I don't hate it, but I got to get used to it, I think.
Yeah, I don't know that I don't know that I don't. Like I don't know where I feel about all of it, but it's kind of a it's kind of like a fun. Give us this. Let me see. Actually, let's just put it on for the peeps. Hold on, real quick.
Yeah. It's definitely more fun. Like if you don't give up like 5 runs before that, but
swing and a miss with a pitch. And there's the jump.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. But in the end, I'm excited about that. So will we be basement dollars for another couple seasons? Probably. Yep. Sure. Chris Bryant's contract has to come off the books, or they got to buy him out, or he's got to be able to contribute. But a guy with a degenerative disc issue probably is never going to be great again. So that part kind of sucks. But the rest of it, Ryan McMahon is a really solid, versatile bat and a great defender. Rocky's number 1 prospect from a couple of years ago is going to be vying for the second place. So it's a lot of youth movement that we've all been kind of hoping for. And so it's here, and I think, to be honest, I'm excited enough about it that next spring training, I think it's a Scottsdale trip. It's time to go check out the young guns. And
That was one of my favorite trips that we've done just with the guys, was just like going, staying at the hotel, just going out to a bunch of games. That was fun.
Yeah, go watch them practice and all the good stuff. So yeah, very much excited about it. So if you get a chance, I'm actually going to go to a few games this year. I decided, like, I'm no longer going to do the protest.
You're not doing the protest.
Or watch some of the young cats hit.
Yeah, I'm in. Let's go. I want to see it. I feel like it's been missing from my life. Let me say that. Yeah. I am not, baseball's not my top sport. However, like, good baseball's fun. And like whether it's definitely better when it's your team, so that makes it tough. But it's also fun to watch other teams be good, just like it is in any other sport. Like I'm over the time in my life where it was like, oh, I have to like the team to think that watching them is fun. Yeah. Some teams are just fun to watch, and some teams are just talented, and you got to respect it. Like, I don't really dig the Boston Celtics, but I respect the hell out of how they shoot the ball and how they cycle the ball. Like, I don't necessarily think it's fun to watch, but I don't hate them for it, So, I think I gotta start accepting that a little bit more in this baseball season as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a bit before they are, you get back to the 2017, 2018, that kind of really strong competitive team. And, they're at least doing, they didn't call it a rebuild, but they're doing it. And so that to me is, that's rewarded me a little bit. So, I would encourage folks to go get, learn about some of these kids. A lot of them are pretty well thought of in the baseball community, which at least, it's not the bias of the Rockies themselves pumping out this information. It's a lot of national pundits. So, go check them out, or don't, whatever. Not your dad.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's switch gears. I want to talk about the Avs just briefly.
Let's do it.
We got the trade deadline coming up. I think it's March 7th or 6th. I can't remember. I think
7th, yeah.
Which is next Friday. So there's time for the Avalanche to still make a move, as well as some other teams. I do think at this point they need some more scoring. They need some more offensive play. They need someone that can kind of come in and bolster that second or third line specifically, and down the middle would be nice. But I think they need to make some sort of move. Really, the biggest talk right now is about Gabriel Landeskog and his whether he's going to be back, kind of just in general, not this season and beyond. And how that impacts the Avalanche at the move at the trade deadline to be able to make a move. It's a tough scenario, and I wonder, just kind of, I want to get your opinion on it, just because I think it's kind of a rarity to have this situation in any sport. A guy that presumably hasn't played for the better part of 2 years, has stayed with his with the club his whole career, but yet is only 32. Potentially has life after the Colorado Avalanche if they decided to move off him. But they've stuck with him. What do you think that says? Do you think that is something that, in hindsight, now that we're kind of where we are, was a mistake to kind of hold on and hope for the best and re-sign this guy to a long-term deal? Or do you see it as something more admirable that you kind of like to see from one of the teams that you support?
Yeah, I think for me, the hard part is with hockey, right? So the deal was given, I think, was it the year before they won the cup?
I think it might have. Yeah, I think it was
the year of. Like, it wasn't. Yeah,
it was. So, yeah, it was the year before year of.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of, they understood what he sacrificed for that championship run, and I think with that there is some honor. I think in that. I think NHL is a little different than a lot of the other leagues. I don't think it's as cutthroat. I also know that, I mean, the contracts are guaranteed, and so he's already signed it. Like, what are your other options? And so the only way you're going to get out from under this is he agrees either to a buyout or he retires. Anything outside of that, you got to pay him anyway. And so the hard part is the dance, you might be coming back. He's all the stuff. He hasn't been close to coming back. Like, the fact that I think we were led to believe a little bit that the corner was closer than we thought. And even by Gabe himself, that part's a little frustrating.
Sure.
I think that does the fans a disservice. I think, though, that the debt has been paid by the Avalanche. My thought would be he has to decide by the end of this year, and we have to know that he has the capability to come back. Or, my request for him would be, hey, we'll pay you the rest of your salary as a special assistant to the GM or whatever, right? And hang him up, because we really need to make moves. Like, we have to be able to operate the franchise. They essentially have eaten his cap this year, the cap space, which, affected Mikko Rantanen and will obviously impact what they're able to do at the trade deadline. Can't have that every single year, because you felt good. That was a handful of years ago. I think we're allowed to be able to move on. I think Gabe is allowed to move on. And I think there's ways to do it kind of the back end way to make sure he still gets some loot, that you're not screwing him out of, $20-30 million.
Sure.
But also, I think Gabe loves the organization. Probably doesn't want to go anywhere other than, offering him a token position so he can get his pay while still being a part of this, and then getting the cap relief. To me, I think that would be best of both worlds. I'm not sure what the holdup is, to be honest with you. I'm not sure why we haven't landed there already. I don't know what else needs to occur for Gabe to think that he can come back. You know what I mean?
Right.
What is being told to him to make him feel like he's got a shot? That's the part that I'm really confused about. Is I would assume like he's going through PT and he's going through that's not a fun process. That's not playing hockey with your buddies. That's, that's annoying physical exercise for a world-class athlete that's mind numbing. And so what's being fed to Gabe to make him think, because the last thing I want to think is that they're all in cahoots and this is dog and pony show for some other reason. I don't think the NHL is like that. I don't think Gabe is like that. So I'm not going to go there, but there is definitely at some point, I think the faucet needs to get turned off and big boy decisions need to happen. I think that needs to happen. To be honest with you, I don't know why you wouldn't push, if he can't come back, if he's not back right now, you move him to the long-term IL, free up that cash so that you can make a move and at the trade deadline. And then I think he has to make a decision by the end of this season before the new league year starts, so that you can address his role accordingly. I mean, that's a big loss that you can get. You're not going to replace Gabe, leadership, all that stuff, but you can replace the guy that's not playing. He's not helping the team. You can't lead. You can't be a leader on the team when you don't play. And so for as great of a leader as he is, he's not there, not playing. At some point, appreciate it, Gabe, but the last time you stood up was 3 years ago. That's not appreciate what you did. Half the team didn't play with him, So that's my thought. That's my they're a rock hard place now. And if they really want to continue to contend in this window, because you're going to have to re-up Kale pretty soon. Yeah. And at some point, the checks are always going to come due. And so I think that's how I would like it to be handled. Put him on the shelf for the rest of the year. He's not coming back. Let's leave it alone. Let's use that money to go get the serviceable, whatever that might be. Hopefully an expiring contract, so you free back up Gabe's salary next year, and then Pooper, get off the pot, man.
Yeah. It's a tough situation. I think all of us have a strong affection for Gabe, but you kind of get into that debate of you've got one of the best players, if not the best player in the NHL in his prime. And, we just had to ship out Mikko Rantanen. arguably, if you have that money off the books, there's a scenario where you could have held on to him. It becomes tough to kind of continue to justify, I think, is kind of where we're at. I was okay at the time with the wait and see approach. I was okay with them getting time. Ultimately, I think we all want to see him back and contributing. But if we're looking at 3 seasons straight where we have no ice time, we can even get him on the ice to be able to assess whether he's got something left or not, then you've got to kind of start weighing the options of moving on. And it's not something I say fondly, ultimately, again, just to stress, we're big Gabe Landeskog fans. We know what he brought to that championship team. We know what he can bring if he's healthy. But, obviously there is a point in which he has to ask himself, and the club has to kind of demand some sort of answer, and I think we are maybe beyond that point. Some could argue, but I think we're definitely, if the ownership doesn't feel that, or the front office doesn't feel that, now they will be feeling it very soon. As we approach the postseason and the off season. So, it's just, I think, something to keep an eye on. Ultimately, I hope they get him back out there as long as he's healthy, and is feeling comfortable. There is a big mental factor. I think we saw that with Jamal Murray coming off of the injury. Like, he's not going to be himself for a long time. It'll take him some time to feel comfortable out in competition and with all the bodies around him, and kind of getting used to what that feels like with his repaired injured knee. But let's see. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what the season holds for him. It's just when your team is so hurting for depth, it just makes it a tough situation to kind of watch right now after having shipped off Mikko, and even say Mikko was still going to walk, which is okay, and I would have been okay with that from a dollar standpoint. You can't reload right now, and that makes it really difficult.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's it's money that you can see but you can't touch.
Right, exactly. All right, well, let's talk Nuggets. Nuggets had a sad loss on Saturday against the Los Angeles Lakers. Followed it up with a quirky win against the Indiana Pacers, where Nikola Jokic set a career high in assists with 19. I think he was 18 points, 9 rebounds, 19 assists, something crazy like that. Second highest mark from a center of all time, only behind Wilt Chamberlain. I was looking at the assist numbers and like records. It's Wilt, and then Jokic at 19, and then Wilt at 18, and then Jokic with something absurd, 17 assist games. I think 11 of the next highest assist totals belong to Jokic. It's just a wild statistic. And I think, obviously we got to talk about Jokic when we talk about the Nuggets. So I feel like I maybe overdo it with the Jokic talk sometimes, but we're witnessing a historical performance this season by him.
Yep.
The talk of the MVP is still in favor of Shea, it seems like. Maybe that's voter fatigue. Not to say, I think Shea's had a fantastic season. Oklahoma City looks super formidable. Shea's a good two-way player. If he were to win, I wouldn't say he's undeserving. I just think Jokic is setting a new precedent for the center position, averaging a triple-double so far on the season, and B, just the value that he brings to his team on a night-to-night basis. How are you feeling about this team right now? Did the Lakers kind of expose the Nuggets in a way to play Jokic that is going to be difficult for them down the stretch? I think that is, I don't know that is the word on the street, so to speak, but I've heard whispers that, they figured out Jokic. They're not scared of them anymore. So what's your take on that performance against the Lakers specifically on last Saturday?
Yeah, I think it was big for them, right? They really got handled for the past 2.5 seasons at the, where it took till what, game 4 of the playoffs last year for them to get their first win of the season, I think, against Nuggets. So, and by a pretty large average margin of defeat. So it's not, throughout the regular season, they're getting whomped. So I think it was good for them, especially, bringing in Luka to get a good showing against a team that you've struggled with a new big piece. And defense was kind of the, you didn't bring in Luka for his defense. So to be able to show some really, but they also are playing, I think I heard over the last 20 or so games, they're the number one defense in the NBA, the Lakers are. And so, that part worries me. If they can figure out how to, you got LeBron and you got Luka, they're going to score. And so then you kind of worry about that. That said, I still, it's 2 players against 5.
Right.
And I'll still take the best player in the world. And everyone thinks that they have a plan to stop Jokic, and then, they don't. The question is going to be, are other guys going to make shots? The Nuggets adapt. Malone does a good job. Him and his staff do a pretty good job about being able to counter what some teams will do. And so I'm not overly worried. I'm more worried about this team just continuing to find rhythm, make sure that they got their rotation set. You need, I think, Russ locked back in. He started to spiral a little bit. And I think that was pretty evident against the Lakers. Didn't even play really well against the Pacers. And so if the younger guys keep stepping up a little bit, Strother, Christian Brown has just been, I don't think we've talked about him enough, just been phenomenal all season, super consistent, always brings it defensively. He's got to be shooting like almost 60% from the floor. Like, he's just an efficient, effective basket maker. He's just kind of doing it all. So at least you got to feel really good about, you got the best player in the world that's playing, setting personal bests. Like, every time that you think you've seen enough, you haven't. Murray, I think over the last, since December, really has looked like old Jamal, averaging 20 plus. MPJ has stepped back a little bit. I don't think Gordon has looked the same since coming back. So I think I'm more worried about this team rounding into form versus what anyone else is doing. I think if they're healthy and they're kind of playing up to their potential, I'll stack chips against anyone's chips. That to me is the biggest concern. And really, it's the Nuggets versus themselves. They might run into a better opponent, Boston, etc. Maybe, maybe. But my worry is that they're not, that everyone is not back yet for whatever way, shape, or form, mentally, physically. That's going to be the part that derails them. I don't think it'll be another team, at least not for a while. So let me see them beat the Nuggets at their best. Then I'll be worried. But one game doesn't make a streak.
Yeah, no, I agree, and the fact that they came back and won against the Pacers, it was just, it's not like the wheels are falling off the car, where they are continuing through the last stretch of the season. I think the Lakers wanted that to be a statement game. I think they probably planned more than they ever did against any other regular season team this season to try and come up with a formula that would shut down Jokic, at least in the short term. I think they did a good job of doing that. They denied him the ball. They were always around him. They forced turnovers. They just made it really messy, and they played really physical, and I think they did a nice job. That being said, I think over the course, if you were to match up both them in the playoffs over the course of a 7-game series, there will be adjustments that will be made, and maybe we'll see that even the next time in the regular season that the Lakers play the Nuggets. But I think that ultimately Jokic can out IQ a lot of schemes. I think he understands how to get his teammates the best shot and in under duress as well. So it will be interesting to see, though. I think JJ Redick's a good coach. I think he's a good basketball mind. I think he's got those guys playing hard. And I think when you add Luka to that mix, even without a legit center to challenge Jokic, you know, they're gonna bring their A game. They're gonna make him feel it every possession. They're gonna make him make tough decisions throughout the course of a game. You know, we're just gonna have to see who can step up and kind of shoulder some of that load. On Saturday, no one really did that. Aaron Gordon had a good game, played well, but over the course of the series, that's great. If he can do that on occasion, it's not going to be your answer to countering that team. So you'll have to see some guys step up. You'll have to see Russ make some better decisions with the ball, be a little less careless with it. You know, I knew to expect up and down play with Russ. I knew to expect some turnover prone games. You know, it's just hard. It's been a tough stretch of a couple of games for him. So I hope that he kind of returns to form. I don't know. I was confident in this team's ability to get to the Western Conference Finals. I would say I'm slightly less so, just because I don't feel like I feel the urgency, especially when someone's kind of pushing you in the regular season to step up. You know, they hung around, and then they just ultimately just let go of the rope. And, you know, you'd like to see them fight back a little bit harder in that scenario. So I'm not out on the Nuggets being a contender or having a chance at a championship. I just think that there's still more steps to take. There's still a lot of big personalities on that team that require some ego stroking at times. And I think you've got to figure out the best way to then kind of get those guys out there and what time and when the game demands it, are they going to be able to take a step back if they need to?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think what's lost in that, they're still the 2 seed, tied with Memphis.
Yeah,
the Lakers are the 4 seed right now, so they're 2 games back from the Nuggets. So they're playing really good basketball. So it's not like they got beat by some slouches. They got beat, like you said, by a very hungry team. And now the Nuggets, to be honest, like they're 9-1 in their last 10. So I'm not gonna get like they lost 1 game. They had won 8 before that.
Right.
And they won again after that. That's pretty good in retrospect. They're not going to be able to beat everyone that they play. I don't know if we know this, but no NBA team has went through the regular season undefeated. So we'll see, though. Like you said, I do want to see the resiliency. We've seen it a little bit in spurts this year, but not really a hallmark yet. And the team, you know, the championship team a couple of years ago, and even in the regular season a little bit last year, they were the team that would respond pretty well. They ran out of gas. You know, they did it against the Timberwolves, being down 0-2. They ran out of gas to be able to kind of keep it there, but this has been a team that has been extremely resilient. You know, they probably should have lost a couple games to the Lakers in the first round. You know, if it weren't for Jamal hitting a couple buzzer beaters, right? So they've been a little bit closer than maybe we give them credit for, and so I'm just not going to get too much over 1 game, especially when they can come back and beat a quality team. You know, Indiana, I think over the last 3 games prior to averaged like $120 or $130 a game. And, you know, the Nuggets really stepped it up on defense. So you got to be able to give them a little bit of the credit, even though we're shining some concern. So they're going to get a lot of the team's best shot. You know, they're still, I think, seen in as a class of the Western Conference, and people are going to take a step up to play you. And hopefully we can start bringing our A game a little bit more often.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, let's transition. We got some draft coverage. I think this will give us enough time to cover it. I feel like the last few weeks we've been going over, or we've been pushing it to our timing a little bit. We got 25 minutes to jump into some draft stuff. We picked 2 more position groups, so we'll go over those first. And then we got some deep sleepers that we want on your radar. Obviously, we want these to be players that we think will benefit the Broncos coming in the upcoming draft, which is like, you know, I don't know how many days away, but not that many, like a month and a half away.
I mean, it's like almost exactly 2 months. So it's like 60 days. Yeah, it's not. Yeah. You know, they're going to be running in their undies here pretty soon. So, you know, it's that season. It's the time, the fun stuff. We get to, you know, that's how rosters get built. So some of the, you know, our tagline came from Sean Payton. Sean Payton said, "You know what? We're going to be a problem next year." And I heard from a few places. Ryan Edwards had brought this up. Heard Cecil Lammy bring it up. A few guys that are on the ground in Indy saying, there's a air about the Broncos that really they feel really good about their ability to draft, to scout. They feel like they have a lot of pieces. Strong belief in Bo Nix being a guy that could lead them deep into the playoffs. They're just a few players away. So to us, I think, I know we're going to talk draft throughout today and obviously leading up, but free agency obviously will hit first. This is a team that I think they believe they're much closer maybe than even we do. I think a realistic expectation is that they're pushing the Chiefs for the division. I wouldn't expect that they would overtake it necessarily just yet, but I think they do. I think that they absolutely sit there and feel motivated and convicted that they're going to be a problem. If they're able to snag a couple pieces to really make this offense more dynamic, maybe add a little bit of depth in a few places on defense, that the NFL, is on notice. And that part's exciting. It's a little scary to go from like your team sucked for a decade to like, puffing up our chest a little bit after getting demolished in the first round of the playoffs. But you know what? I'm here for it. It's like Coach Prime, like, we coming, and then like, oh, you know what? All right, 9-3, like you did a good job. Heisman Trophy winner. Like, all right, maybe, just maybe this team is that close. So So let's jump in. Which position groups are we going over today?
We got tight ends and we have linebackers. So I'm thinking more stand-up traditional linebacker. Maybe some hybrid linebackers in there too, that you could use on the edge if needed. But I think we're primarily looking for someone up the middle there to help. A linebacking core that had some struggles, especially stopping the run late in the season. And I think we are all kind of aware of the limitations that group had this last season with Alex Singleton being injured and him coming back from an injury. So where do you want to start? You want to start tight ends? You want to start tight ends?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. I think that tight ends are a little more cut and dry for the most part. I think that there's some wiggle room, but I think the top two are pretty well established. I think that it's kind of a unanimous feel for the top two. You want to go first? You want me to go?
Go for it.
Okay. I've got Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State, as my top tight end prospect. He's a guy that, he had taken 916 snaps, which is the second most in college football last season. You can be on the field basically all the time. He's a really good blocker. He plays with his hair on fire. He's good catching the ball and in traffic. He's just kind of one of those guys. I think I heard someone give him a comp, which I actually liked. I don't know if I agree with it fully, but I saw someone give him a Jeremy Shockey comp, which kind of fit the mold for me of someone that the Broncos could use, a guy that you could put out there and in both passing and in running downs, where you can kind of keep the playbook options open. Just a guy that I've fallen in love with over the last season, which is hard for me to say because he's a Penn State guy, but he's just a specimen out there, and he's fun to watch. And if you haven't watched, you need to watch at least his highlights because they're a lot of fun. Second, and probably the most mocked tight end to the Broncos.
Really, outside of maybe like Cam Ward right now, number one, right? Like it's probably the most consensus I've seen a pick this early to one team that's not in the top like 5. So
Colston Loveland, Michigan tight end. Again, don't love that I have to give him flowers, but I think he is less. I think you'd say he's a slightly less diverse tight end. He's definitely more of a pass catcher, but great in the passing game. You can kind of put him out there and expect that he'll win a coverage matchup, especially against a linebacker. He's got size to, make a catch over a safety. He's 6'5", 245, maybe slightly light for a tight end that you'd at least a prototypical tight end that I see in the NFL. Those tight ends, they sometimes can look like wide receivers. Nowadays, not every tight end is out there blocking at a high level. You get the Kyle Pitts of the world. Maybe not a great example because he's a bit of a bust, but guys that kind of fit that playmaker format from anywhere on the field. And I think that he's one guy that, and I do think that he would benefit the Broncos. He's a guy that you can throw the ball to over the middle of the field. He can win on the outside if needed. You can move him around. He's comfortable catching the ball again in traffic. He's got great hands. So someone that I think the Broncos should be looking to. I don't know. I mean, I would like to see him be able to move back and still take him, just because I think that there will be guys that'll covet it a bit higher. But if you fall in love with the guy and he's your guy, then go get him. I think I could see a lot of scenarios where Colston Loveland's the pick for the Broncos. After that, at number 3, I've got Gunnar Helm. He's a tight end for the Longhorns. Big kid, like 6'6", 265, 250, somewhere in there. Not as proven as the other guys, and I would say probably more your prototypical red zone tight end. He's got some ability to go up and get the ball. He's big. He's got a big catch radius. He's physical. You can keep him in there in the passing game. But I don't know that you're really expecting much as far as playmaking down the field. But, he would be a good addition to a tight end room that you've got some veteran guys. He'd be a good young guy that you can try and develop. He's got some positive traits. A guy that I like and wouldn't be upset if the Broncos ended up drafting at some point in the upcoming draft. 3, I've got Mason Taylor, tight end out of LSU. Another big kind of prototypical blocking kind of red zone target. I think he at times shows a little more athleticism than Gunnar Helm. I think that I don't know. There's something about the way that he plays that I really kind of gravitate towards, even though I think that he still has I don't know that he has a lot of high-end traits that will kind of bump him up to the next elite kind of tight end area. But I think that he is a really solid player. Again, another mid-round guy, probably a day 2 guy that you could go get. Maybe day 3. I think, where am I at right now? PFF has him at rank the 93rd ranked prospect. So he's top 100 prospect. And the guy that I think is really interesting. And then last, I struggled with this. There's 3 guys that I'm interested in. And I ended up going with Terrence Ferguson because to me, he feels more like a tight end than the other 2. And maybe those guys will end up on your list. We could talk about that. I don't know. There's something about that height and weight and ability to produce that I really like, especially in the red zone. Ferguson played 582 snaps. He was on the field a lot last season. It shows his ability to kind of stay in the game and not be pigeonholed into either the running game or the running game or the passing game. Just a guy that at 22 years old, so he's got a little seasoning under his belt. He played three seasons with Oregon. Well-coached guy, not just a good disciplined prospect that I think could be a potential day 3 steal for a team. That's my 5.
I like it. Well, I think the first 2 are, like you said, Britton and Chalk. Tyler Warren. Love me some Tyler Warren. 6'6", 260. Play H-back, play fullback, can play inline tight end, can line up at your X or your Z. I love it. Colston Loveland, I think there's some chops there to be a good blocker, but definitely kind of a big receiver right now, 6'5", 245. Bring them both. I love it. I do have Harold Fannin third.
Okay.
I think that's a little bit of, is he a true tight end? Don't care. He had 117 catches last year, 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns. Played well against good competition. And so a little bit of that's the coach's problem to figure out. I don't care how he fits. The Broncos didn't have a real dynamic offense last year. If I'm George Payton or whatever, it's a good player. Figure it out, Sean, which he probably would. So I love it. Yeah, he's 6'4", 230, kind of built more like a fullback. But definitely he's chiseled though. And so feel like you can kind of figure it out. Guy has 110 catches. Probably don't want him lining up and smashing face as much anyway.
Sure.
Got to be able to hold his own a little bit in the run game, but I'm not having him stand as a pass blocker. So that is where that's at. I have Mason Taylor 4, Jason Taylor's nephew, I think, which where the athleticism I think comes from. And so really like what he provides. And then my number 5, so Gunnar Helm and Terrence Ferguson, both Colorado kids. Just shout outs. I have Terrence Ferguson 5. I have Gunnar Helm 6, Elijah Rojo 7, and then Mitchell Evans and Orlando Gatson rounding up my top 10. I like Ferguson. I think he's more accomplished. I think he's a guy I think that will come in and contribute right away a little bit faster. I think Gunnar Helm came on really strong last year for the first time. Ferguson, a senior, has just played, I think, some more meaningful football. But what I wouldn't be mad at either. I think all of those 5 prospects, I think, are going to be good players in the NFL. I think if they get used right, a couple of them could be great. Might worry a little bit about like Harold Fannin and Tyler Warren is that maybe someone's going to be too cute with them. So I'm doing college and some of those things. The NFL isn't college though, and so that hopefully coaches don't try to outsmart themselves with these guys, put them in positions to get their ball in their hands, mismatch, all that good stuff. But I like there's a few more guys, we'll talk about a few throughout. So I think they'll be able to get one. It's not as deep as some other positions where I think that they can, that they can get a starting caliber player in the 4th round.
Sure.
Probably not as as you can usually find maybe with running backs or et cetera. That said, I really like this group, so I have no doubt the Broncos will come away with one of those. I would assume at least a guy off our list will be a Bronco come April. Yeah,
I think so too. I think I don't know. Obviously, we don't know what the draft will hold, but I have to imagine that they are looking to bolster that tight end room. I think that again, if we're looking at mocks, there's a lot of mocks where Colston Love was the pick for the Broncos at 20. So, it will be interesting to see if they value him as much as we in the media do. I have to imagine that he's getting mocked to Denver as often as he is, that people at least know that Denver's in the market for a tight end. If nothing else, I don't think they've made that a secret. I think Sean Payton has said as much. You need a what did he say? A joker, someone who can kind of open up that game.
I mean, someone that can take advantage of the middle of the field. You can use as a mismatch. Yeah. And so they'll get one. I would assume that they'll get a couple players that might be able to do both. I mean, when you have a running game that can't run, and really outside of Marvin Mims for a handful of games, Devon Vele for a handful of games, and Cortland Sutton, there wasn't much of a consistent offensive threat, period.
Right.
Outside of Bo Nix running the ball. So, and even that got turf toe, the ankle issue, and some vertebrae broken. So that's I don't think we want our quarterback doing all of that stuff again next year, and getting themselves a useful tight end. That's a good step.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right. I'm going to make you kick off this one.
Yeah.
So let's do linebackers. Let's run through it quick.
So we're going traditional linebackers, not edge guys, if they needed to, but not bringing them together. So I got Jihad Campbell, number 1, yep. Alabama, 6'3". I've seen reports anywhere from like 240 to 255. So your traditional sized guy, but definitely someone that can play in some space. He can come off the edge, which I think, to be honest, if you're going to be a 3-down linebacker, you got to be able to go forward and you got to be able to go backward, regardless of what down it is. So you got to be able to help contribute that way. My number 2 is a little different than most. I have Chris Paul Jr. as my second. Ole Miss linebacker, 6'1", like 235. Just speed, and angry disposition. Which, how about you? But I like that in my linebackers, not my women. Just kidding. That was stupid. So really, I think that he'll be a pretty good player. I'm coming around on Carson Schwessinger, 6'3", 6'2", 6'3", 225 or so, kind of a converted safety. But in the end, essentially, right, that's kind of where the linebacker position is going a little bit.
Yeah.
I worry about him because you got to be able to stay on the field and stop the run. I don't know that until he gains about 10 more pounds is someone that I feel comfortable with all the time. But you know what? It's his body, his choice. Number 4, Barrett Carter. Actually, I might even swap those two. I think Barrett Carter has been a good player for Clemson for a while. Probably could have came out and been a highly drafted linebacker last year. Want to come back this year, kind of boost his stock a little bit. And then I have Smeal Mondon.
Oh, Mondon.
Yeah, Mondon. 6'3", 235, Georgia linebacker. I think he has 3-down traits. He'd be a baller. And then I got a couple of sleepers, but I don't want to talk about them yet because we're going to talk about that in a minute.
We'll save those. Okay. I'm assuming you left Jalen Walker out just because most people are saying he's an edge.
Yeah, that's the only reason. I know that he played a ton with his hand in the dirt, or not hand in the dirt, in a.
I didn't understand.
Holy crap! I don't even know what that was.
I don't know what they thought you said, but
jeez, Alexa, appreciate you. They're listening. I moved Jalen Walker. My worry for him too is he's going to get Drew Sanders, and they're going to move him around a ton. And he's Isaiah Simmons. Like, you move around too much, and he's going to get lost in the shuffles there.
Yeah, I got you. All right, I'll run through mine just real quick. So I also have Jihad Campbell, number 1. Just kind of, again, your prototypical kind of middle linebacker. 6'3", 245, someone who you could feel good about putting down in the box and helping in that run game and plugging up some holes. My second is actually Carson Schwessinger. I know he's a bit light. I like how he plays the game. I think that he is really athletic. I think he's really fast. He's a great tackler, especially one-on-one in space. I think he can over-pursue. I think he can get kind of beat, with a quarterback who's good at manipulating coverage with his eyes. So I think it'll be interesting to see if he can make that adjustment and maybe like you said, put on a few pounds of muscle so he can hold up a little bit better in the run game. But I think he does things. The things that the stoutness that he's missing, I think he could at times makes up with his kind of ability to kind of be a little bit slithery and kind of get between guys with his athleticism. And then if he gets his hands on you, he will pull you down pretty easily. So I actually really like the way that he plays the game. After that, I've got Chris Paul Jr. again, like you said, fast. Really like him in coverage, his ability to kind of pace those tight ends and running backs that he'll be put on in coverage situations, kind of getting to the edge. His lateral movement's not really in question. So I like that about him. I don't know if he'll hold up as well in the run game again. being a little bit lighter, not as light as Schlesinger, but a little bit lighter than maybe you'd like. Maybe you put on 5 to 10 more pounds of muscle, you'd be a little more stout in there. But again, kind of an uber athlete and played a lot of snaps last season for that Ole Miss team. Then I have Jeffrey Bassa, Oregon linebacker. He's fun. He just kind of attacks everything, which I like. I also don't like sometimes, again, it's that over pursuit.
Yep.
It's that, if he makes a bad read, he kind of commits to the bad read and then he can get burnt. But as far as athleticism goes, size, he's pretty much what you want at that middle linebacker spot. And then maybe I'm biased, but I put Cody Simon as my 5 linebacker. I just watched him play a lot of football. I think he's got great instincts. He's a good tackler. I think he will struggle maybe a little bit tackling at the next level because he isn't quite as big as some of those top end talent guys. But I think he's 6'2", 235, something like that. Like he's definitely got some weight to him, some heft to him. But mostly I just like his instincts and his ability to be around the ball. I mean, watching him last season, he was a big part of that defense. He was a big part of he could keep guys in front of him. He didn't get beat too much, especially one-on-one. I think he's a little underrated. I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't say he's a sleeper, but I think he's definitely underrated. Yeah. So that's my top 5.
I like him. I like Bassa. I like both of those additions. I do think that there's going to be a pretty good player that they can get that kind of from the Broncos perspective. I think they need to draft one. I think that they'll have to get a vet just to hedge to see if Singleton comes back. They did announce that Drew Sanders is going to play inside this year to maximize his athleticism. I think that's good. We'll see, but I think you have to stockpile, and as much as I would love Drew Sanders to work out.
Oh, for sure.
I not at the at the cost of winning football games. Now that we're a playoff team, baby. Yeah, no more. Don't care about their feelings anymore.
That's right, baby.
And any of those guys, I think at minimum, good backups to start, tremendous special teamers, like all those guys, play fast, and you could see a role. I like Bassa's, former safety again, and so you can at least translate some of those things. So any of those guys, I think could make a good addition. We'll see. We will see. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's do sleepers. I don't know how many we're going to go. We're just going to go till we feel like we're good. I wrote down 11 potential sleepers, so we're definitely not going to hit all that.
Well, I didn't write down 11, but I got a few. Yeah.
Got a handful. Okay. Want to kick us off then?
Yeah. I got Craig Woodson, safety from Cal.
Okay.
Like 5'11", 6 foot, about 210. Super smart, savvy. He's actually a pretty good athlete. And so the athletic traits aren't huge, but is always in the right position. Super smart, always gets the ball carrier down. We're talking about tackling in the NFL. It's very difficult. So he's a guy that I think won't be well thought of that the Broncos or any team really could take. And I wouldn't be shocked, year 2, year 3, he's starting some games for you and he's able to produce and kind of wins with intelligence. When you look at Jim Leonard, Jim Leonard etched out a really nice career, the Broncos defensive back coach in the NFL by being a smart, heady player.
Yep.
And, utilizing what athleticism he has, which he has some, to be someone that's around the football. And that's kind of what you're hoping for. So Craig Woodson, safety, California.
I like him. Good pick. I'm going to start with a wide receiver. One that shares the name with you. His name is Nick Nash.
San Jose State, baby.
San Jose State, yeah. Great size, 6'3", about 200 pounds. Quick, decent athlete. I think that he's got a long ball game. His ability to catch the ball down the field is really good. He's got great hands. He's got a good frame. He's got a good catch radius. I wonder. The only thing I think big question mark with him is his ability to run routes, just kind of generally, and especially in the short and intermediate routes. He went a lot down the field, but not so much across the field, and his ability kind of to separate in man-on-man coverage will be interesting to see. But I think he's got a lot of positive traits. I think if you're looking for someone who got plus traits that you can get on day 3, I think that he's someone you could look at. I mean, what are his career numbers? I had those just pulled up, but he's got some pretty prolific receiving numbers. For a small school guy. Let's see, where was it? He had, and his grades. I mean, PFF really likes him too. He had an 86.9 receiving grade. He had an 81.2 grade against man coverage. Let's see, he had. Oh, here they are. So yeah, this season he had 1,382 yards and 16 touchdowns. So he can produce. It's just a matter of can he elevate his game to that next level. But he's a guy that I think has some upside and has some potential.
Yeah. I think his age works against him too. I think he's a little bit older.
He is a little bit older. I don't know how old he is, but I think he played 5 or 6 years in college. So he's probably he's looking a little like a Devon Vele type, but may have some ability to carve out a niche and on special teams as well.
Yeah. But again, it has plus traits, especially if you're looking at day 3. That's a guy that I would take a swing at. Nick, nice job. I'm gonna go Logan Brown, offensive tackle from Kansas. Why the hell would you do that? Good question. Was a top 10 overall high school recruit for Wisconsin. So what I would be looking at is like guys who are 5-star trait kind of kids that maybe didn't realize all of that athleticism and talent in college, and say, hey, you know what? I think Zach Shreve and Sean Payton can get the best out of these guys. So let's bring them in. And with Mike McGlinchey, I would think, this year, maybe next year. I like Mike McGlinchey as a player. I think we all know that he is extremely overpaid, and I think getting yourself some continued depth on the offensive line, 1, is good. 2, I think if you're athletic enough to be a really good right tackle, you're probably dang good enough to be a guard. And so Ben Powers also is, I think, playing for his NFL future in Denver this year also. Both those guys make a ton of money. Would save the Broncos a lot if they were able to find a rookie day 3 guy who could step in at some point. I think Logan Brown could be one of those guys.
Yeah, I like that. I was going to go offensive lineman, but I think that this offensive lineman that I had targeted a little while back has kind of moved up since Senior Bowl. So I'm going to skip him. I'll just say his name. His name's Jackson Slater, Sacramento State.
Yep.
But he had a nice Senior Bowl. So we'll see where he ends up. I think he'll probably end up being more of a day 2 guy. So I'm going to go with more of a day 3 guy, and a guy that you mentioned in your tight end rankings. And one guy that I am not sure is a tight end, but I guess we'll see. And Arande Gadsden out of
the second.
Syracuse. Yes, the second.
Son of former Dolphin. Great.
That's right. And he is super interesting. So he's marked as a tight end. I think that is probably what he is, but he's a little small, at least weight-wise. He's 235 pounds. But just an athlete, just a guy that's got some juice. He's a great pass catcher. Can win one-on-one against most guys.
Mm-hmm.
I think kind of his biggest concern was his health. I think he had 2 Liz Frank surgeries in 23 and 24. And he's pretty unproven as a blocker. And you can imagine, just given kind of his weight, why he may have struggled kind of inline blocking. But if he can add some weight to his frame and he can, and that he's not sacrificing any of his athleticism and speed, I think that there's some possibility for him to develop into a really good offensive player. He's a good hands catcher. He's a good route runner. He's just someone. I mean, maybe you could use him as a large slot receiver. I'm not sure exactly how you'd want to get him out there early on in his career. But he's someone I'm intrigued by at the very least, and maybe fits a little bit of that Joker, quote unquote, Joker mentality.
I think that's spot on. He reminds me of like Julius Thomas a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You asked Julius to block. Like, all right, Pro Bowl talent receiving. Let him be he his Joker kind of written all over him. I would love that. I think he has to add. I think you got to be able to at least, be able to handle your own on lighter edges / linebackers. And I think if he can do that, then I think you're playable in line or as a H-back. But his ability to catch the ball, right, use all that 6'5" frame, did it in the ACC, so it wasn't like he was playing against nobodies. And regardless of injury or not, when he was on the field, he produced. So there's not a projection on whether or not he can be a good pass catcher. I think he's too slow really to play outside. Yeah. And too light right now to play tight end. So can you mix it a little bit? I think so. I think he 10 pounds of muscle, play at 245. Be enough to get in a defensive end's way. It's essentially all you got to be able to do in the NFL. You don't got a pancake, guys. So I like it. I like it. All right. I'm going to pop off two real quick.
Yeah. Let's do two more.
So I'm not going to do linemen since we already got a couple of those. Isis Waxler, cornerback, Villanova. Got to watch against Monmouth. The D2 playoff games was actually really, really good and played really well at the East-West Shrine game. Like 6'1", 200 pounds, so good size. And I think he'll be at the – I think he got a combine invite, I think. And so I hope so. Yeah, he did. He got it. So that's a guy I think it'll be interesting to see what his 40 is, how he does on the drills, see if he's kind of a plus athlete. Obviously, you worry about, playing against lower levels of competition. That said, sometimes those guys take a little bit and then you find them. So super excited about him. I lied. I'm going to do three. I'll give you two running backs real quick. Marcus Yarns, running back, Delaware. A little bit smaller, but can catch the ball. So he's a guy I would put kind of in a Darren Sproles-ish mold. A little bit bigger than Darren, but quick and can catch the ball. And I think his receiving makes him a little bit extra. Played at Delaware too, so I think he's a guy that you can get pretty late. And then Bashal Tootin, running back from Virginia Tech. Why would a ACC running back at 1,200 yards and 15 touchdowns be? Because he fumbled a ton his senior year. Yeah. And so ball security is a big issue. But if you think it's a coaching aspect, right, bad technique, he's fast. I think he has a bit to be able to learn in kind of the running game. I think he's still a little raw there. But dude is fast. And you can't teach speed, and the Broncos offense, to be honest with you, needs fast. Like you need some juice. Even if it's the threat of speed, you didn't have enough on the field. Vele, not very fast. Cortland Sutton is fastish. Javonte Williams was not very fast. Troutman, not. We'll go down the line. So, Bashal Tootin, I think if teams feel like he can shore up his ball security issues, he might be a guy that goes in round 3 maybe, but I think more or less he's going to be a day 3 guy.
Gotcha. Yeah, I like him. I was aware of him. I am aware of the following, but I haven't really dived into him yet, so I'll have to check him out. Tootin, I mean. Okay, well, if you're going to do 3, I'll do 3 quick ones. We'll do just quick hitters real quick. I've got number 1, and I don't know, I can't kind of get a feel of whether this is a day 2 or day 3 guy. Cody Lindenberg, he's a linebacker out of Minnesota. I love the way he plays, to be honest. It's more of a preference probably for me. Yeah. Loves to explode downhill. Good with play recognition. He's good at playing zone coverage. Not as good unmanned, but not terrible. He's athletic enough where he has some ability. And he just kind of reminds me of like a Josie Jewell type that you kind of lean on to be in the right place at the right time, and a guy that you can get some value out of late in a draft. Can over pursue a little bit. His lateral quickness has some question marks there, but again, we're talking about day three guys that you can get to contribute. I think he's one potentially. I got Jordan James, running back out of Oregon. I'm a little confused as to why he's not a little bit higher. I think he's been productive. He's played. He had his first full season starting running back last year with Oregon. Has played well. He runs some decent routes out of the backfield and can be. I don't know that you want to rely on him in the passing game, but he's a good safety valve if needed. He seems to find running lanes pretty well. I think that his probably in top end and long speed aren't really elite, and so that's probably where he takes some hits. But he's a guy that I watched him a little bit in college, and then I've watched him a little bit more since then, and I've just been impressed with his physicality. He could run guys over. He could win on the edge. I know it'll be an interesting to see if he can do that at the next level, just because I think obviously your level of athlete's a little bit different. And he's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's got some juice. So he's a guy that I think can definitely be a rotational back. I think that, if he could develop some traits, he's got the makings of a 3-down back. Will he ever realize that? I don't know about that, but he's a patient runner, and he's got a quick acceleration. So I think he's a guy that you should keep an eye on, see where he lands. Last, I'll do tight end. Caden, I don't know how to say it, price scoring out of Ole Miss. Big kid, like 6'6", 260, something like that. Definitely a red target. If you watch him play, he's just like big loping strides, hard to take down once he gets the ball in his hands. Someone that you could definitely find some uses for in the offensive passing game. And on top of that, he's big and heavy and a good blocker. So someone that you could kind of, I don't know if you would say a 1-for-1 Troutman replacement, but someone that's got a skill set similar in the blocking game, but maybe has a little more juice offensively. And I think he'll probably be, I haven't seen him projected any higher than a day 3 guy. So there you go. There's some deep sleepers for y'all.
There we go.
We're gonna call it a day, though. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate you as always. Again, we always love to interact with y'all on X, so hit us up there. But otherwise, take it easy, be safe, and if you need a sports prescription, ask a doctor.
I'm your guy.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle. Wait a minute, work hard for the car, so that's why it's all tinted.